Park Taiho was not supposed to be here. He stood at the back of the observation deck, watching stars blur past the ship's windows. The United Earth vessel Horizon's Edge was traveling faster than light, crossing distances that would take normal ships thousands of years. Taiho's stomach did not enjoy this. He held the railing tight and tried not to think about vomiting in front of the diplomats. The year was 2247. Humanity had been traveling among the stars for only 80 years. They were newcomers. Babies, really, compared to the ancient civilizations that ruled the galaxy. And right now, this ship was carrying humanity's best hope for survival to meet the most powerful of those ancient civilizations, the Velanthi. Dominion Taiho was a xenolinguist. He studied alien languages and cultures. 3 weeks ago, he had been sitting in his small office on Earth, translating old Velanthi poetry for a research paper. Then his supervisor called. The original translator for the diplomatic mission was sick. Very sick. They needed a replacement immediately. You're the only one available, his supervisor had said. You leave tomorrow. So here he was, 32 years old. Average height. No military training. Terrible at sports. Good at reading books and understanding grammar rules. He was surrounded by soldiers, politicians, professional diplomats who had trained their whole lives for moments like this. He felt like a mistake. First time in deep space? A voice asked. Taiho turned. A woman in military uniform stood beside him. Her name tag read Kung Yuna. She was shorter than him, but looked like she could break him in half without trying. Is it that obvious? Taiho asked. You look like you want to die, Yuna said. That's usually a sign. I just get motion sick. During FTL travel? That's rare. She looked almost impressed. Most people's brains just ignore the weird physics. Yours must be paying too much attention. My brain does that, Taiho admitted. Pays attention to things it shouldn't. Yuna smiled slightly. Might be useful where we're going. The Velanthi notice everything. They've been watching the galaxy for 600,000 years. Not much gets past them. Taiho felt his stomach drop again, and this time it was not from the ship's speed. The Velanthi had conquered over 400 star systems. They were not cruel rulers, but they were absolute ones. Their queen had reigned for 6 centuries. Their technology was so advanced that humanity's best scientists could not even understand the basic principles behind it, and humanity was going to ask them, very politely, to please not destroy Earth. Do you think they'll agree to the treaty? Taiho asked. Yuna shrugged. They haven't said no yet. That's something. 2 days later, the ship arrived at Velanthi Prime. Taiho had seen pictures. He had studied descriptions, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. The planet was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Crystal towers rose from the surface, catching light from the system's twin suns. The sky was always purple and gold, locked in eternal twilight. Flying vehicles moved between the towers like streams of light. It looks like a dream, Taiho whispered. Dreams can be dangerous, Yuna replied. She stood beside him at the window. Stay alert. Stay quiet. Let the diplomats do the talking. The human delegation was greeted by Velanthi officials at a landing platform high above the city. The aliens were tall, very tall, 8 feet on average. Their skin shifted colors as they moved, flowing between shades of purple, silver, and blue. Their eyes were large and completely black, showing no emotion that Taiho could read. The lead Velanthi official spoke in their language. It was beautiful, like music and mathematics combined. The sounds rose and fell in patterns that carried meaning beyond the words themselves. Taiho listened carefully. The official was welcoming them. Formally. Coldly. There was politeness in the words, but no warmth. The human delegation was led to their quarters. They were given 1 day to rest before the formal reception with the Queen's court. Taiho did not sleep. He reviewed his notes. He practiced phrases. He studied the hundreds of small gestures that Velanthi used to communicate feelings they would never say aloud. The next evening, the reception began. The great hall of the palace was enormous. Thousands of Velanthi nobles filled the space, their skin colors shifting as they talked and moved. Floating lights drifted through the air. Music played from somewhere, but Taiho could not see any instruments. The human delegation stood together near the entrance. Looking very small and very pink among the towering purple aliens, Ambassador Lee Min-ho led the group. He was experienced, calm. He had negotiated with aliens before. He stepped forward to greet a Velanthi noble who approached them. The noble made a gesture. His hand moved in a quick pattern near his chest. Ambassador. Lee smiled and began to respond warmly. Taiho's heart stopped. That gesture. He knew that gesture. He had read about it just 3 nights ago. It was old, formal, and it did not mean what the ambassador thought it meant. The ambassador thought the noble was offering friendship. The gesture actually meant, I question your worth to stand in this place. It was a challenge, a test. And if the ambassador responded with warmth, he would be admitting that humans were indeed unworthy. It would destroy the negotiations before they even began. Taiho moved without thinking. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the ambassador's arm. Sir, he said quietly but firmly, allow me to respond to the traditional greeting. The ambassador looked confused. The noble's black eyes focused on Taiho. Taiho faced the noble directly. He made a different gesture. His hand moved slowly, deliberately, near his own heart. Then he spoke in Velanthi. His accent was not perfect, but the words were correct. We stand where our feet are placed. We rise when challenged. We do not fall for tricks of children. The hall went quiet. Every Velanthi nearby stopped moving. The noble stared at Taiho for a long moment. Then his skin flushed a deep gold color. Amusement. Respect. The small one has teeth, the noble said. Interesting. He walked away without another word. Ambassador Lee grabbed Taiho's shoulder. What just happened? Before Taiho could answer, a new sound filled the hall. Deep bells. The music stopped. Every Velanthi in the room turned toward the far end of the hall and bowed their heads. The queen was coming. She emerged from doors that seemed to appear from nowhere. 8 feet tall. Her skin was darker than the others, a deep purple that shifted to silver at the edges. She wore no crown, but she did not need one. Power radiated from her like heat from a sun. She walked through the hall slowly. Nobles parted before her like water, and then she stopped. She was looking at the human. Delegation, no, she was looking at Taiho. Her black eyes studied him for a long, terrible moment. Taiho forgot how to breathe. Then the queen smiled. It was small, barely visible, but it was there. She spoke to an advisor beside her. Taiho was too far away to hear the words, but he saw the advisor's skin flash with surprise. Later that night, Ambassador Lee called Taiho to his quarters. The queen has made a request, the ambassador said. His face was pale. She wants you to stay, permanently, as humanity's liaison to her court. Me. Taiho's voice cracked. Why me? I don't know. The ambassador looked at Taiho like he was seeing him for the first time. But you cannot refuse a queen's request. No one ever has. At! Taiho sat down heavily. His legs would not hold him anymore. He had come here to translate documents and stay invisible. Now he was trapped in a palace full of aliens. Serving a queen who had ruled for 600 years? What had he done? 3 months passed like strange dreams. Taiho lived in the royal palace now. His room was larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. The walls glowed with soft light that changed color based on his mood. The bed was too big for one person. The view from his window showed crystal towers that stretched toward the purple sky. He should have been happy. He was living in luxury that most humans could not imagine. He had access to knowledge that scholars would kill for. He was making history every single day. But Taiho was lonely and confused and a little bit scared. The queen had requested him, but she had not explained why. For the first 2 weeks, he did not see her at all. He attended court functions. He translated documents. He answered questions about human culture from curious nobles. Then the summons began. Her Majesty requests your presence in the Eastern Garden Taiho followed the servant through. Halls of crystal and light. The eastern garden was inside the palace but felt like outside. Trees with silver leaves grew around pools of water that glowed from within. Small creatures that looked like flying flowers drifted through the air. Queen Uravel stood beside one of the pools. She was alone. No guards. No advisors. Taiho bowed low. "Your Majesty," she said. Her voice was deep and musical. "I did not call you here to stare at the ground." He straightened. Up close, she was even more impressive. Her eyes reflected the garden's light like dark mirrors. Her skin shifted slowly between purple and silver, like clouds moving across the sky. "I want to understand your species," she said. "You are new to the galaxy, young, weak, and yet you interest me." "I'm honored, Your Majesty." "Do not be honored yet?" "I have not decided if that interest is positive." She began walking along the pool's edge. "Walk with me." His legs felt unsteady. He stopped a diplomatic disaster at the reception, she continued. Most humans would not have noticed the gesture. Most would not have known how to respond. "How did you know?" "I studied, Your Majesty. Valanthic customs, history, language." "Few understand." "Why do you understand?" Taiho thought about the question. It deserved an honest answer. "'Cause I pay attention to small things," he said. "Details that others ignore. Body language. Word choices. The gap between what people say and what they mean. I've always done that. Even on Earth, I notice what others miss." The Queen stopped walking. She turned to face him directly. "You notice what others miss?" she repeated slowly. "And what do you notice about me?" Taiho's heart pounded. This was dangerous territory. One wrong word could destroy everything, but she had asked for honesty. "I notice that you're tired," he said quietly. "You hide it well, but your skin color shifts more slowly than other Valanthi. That happens when your species is exhausted. I also notice that you're curious but careful. You ask questions to test people, not just to learn." And I notice he stopped. "Continue." "I notice that you're lonely," Taiho said. "You rule millions. You command armies. But you walk in gardens alone. That's not normal for a queen." The silence stretched between them like a living thing. Then Uravel laughed. It was a small sound, quiet, rusty. Almost like something that had not been used in a very long time. Her skin flushed gold for just a moment. "You are either very brave or very stupid," she said. "Probably both," Taiho admitted. "Probably." She resumed walking. "Come to me again tomorrow, same time. We will talk more." The meetings continued. Every few days, then every other day, then almost daily. They walked in gardens. They sat in libraries filled with knowledge older than human civilization. They talked at first. Taiho was careful. He answered questions. He explained human customs. He taught her English words that had no Valanthi equivalent, but slowly, something changed. He began to argue with her. It happened by accident the first time. She made a statement about human art. She said it was primitive, simple, not worth serious attention. "That's not fair," Taiho said before he could stop himself. "You're judging it by Valanthi standards. Human art isn't trying to be mathematical perfection. It's about feeling, emotion, the mess of being alive and not knowing why." The Queen's eyes widened. "You dare to correct me? You asked me to help you understand humans. I can't do that if I just agree with everything you say." Another long silence. Taiho was sure he had gone too far. But then her skin shifted to that gold color again. "Amusement. Fair point," she said. "Continue your correction." After that, their conversations became more honest. They debated philosophy. They discussed politics. She told him about wars fought before humans had fire. He told her about his childhood and soul, about his mother who raised him alone, about the books that had been his only friends growing up. She listened. She asked questions. She remembered everything he said. Not everyone was happy about these meetings. Hi, Priest Warmesh had been the Queen's chief advisor for 400 years. He was old, proud, and traditional. He watched Taiho with eyes that held no warmth at all. "You do not belong here, human," he said one evening. Taiho was walking back to his quarters. Wormesh blocked the hallway. "You are a distraction. A curiosity. Nothing more." "I'm just serving as liaison," Taiho said carefully. "As the Queen requested. The Queen has requested many things over the centuries. Not all were wise." Wormesh stepped closer. "Leave while you can, little creature. This is not your world." Taiho wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at him to bow, apologize, disappear, but something had changed in him during those months. Something the Queen had awakened. "I'll leave when the Queen tells me to leave," he said. "Not before." Ramesh's skin turned a dark, angry red. "You will regret those words." 3 days later, Taiho almost died. He was walking through one of the palace's outer corridors. The floor suddenly collapsed beneath him. He fell through darkness, grabbing desperately at the edge. His fingers caught a metal beam. He hung there, above a drop of 1,000 feet, with nothing but air below him. "Help." He screamed, "Someone help." It took 20 minutes for guards to reach him. 20 minutes of holding on, while his arms burned and his fingers went numb. When they finally pulled him up, he collapsed on the floor, shaking. The investigation said it was an accident. Old structural damage. Nothing more. But Kong Yuna, who had stayed at the palace as part of the human security team, pulled Taiho aside. "That section was inspected last week," she said. "It was fine. Someone sabotaged it." "Wormesh," Taiho whispered. "Probably. But we can't prove it." Taiho thought about going to the Queen, about reporting what happened. But Wormesh had served her for 4 centuries. What was Taiho's word against that? He decided to stay silent. To be more careful, to watch his back, he did not need to say anything. 2 days later, the palace shook with a sound like thunder. Guards rushed through the halls. Nobles whispered in corners with skin colors flickering between fear and shock. "Queen." Uravel had called a public judgment. Taiho was ordered to attend. The throne room was packed. Every noble in the palace was there. On a platform in the center of the room, Wormesh knelt in chains. His skin was gray with terror. The Queen sat on her throne. Her face showed no expression. "Wormesh," she said, "you served me for 400 years. You advised me through wars and peace. I trusted you with my empire." She stood. "You tried to murder someone under my protection." The room gasped. Skin colors flashed everywhere. "I knew," the Queen continued. "The moment it happened, I knew. Did you think anything in this palace escapes my notice?" She descended from the throne. "I gave you 2 days to come to me, to confess, to beg mercy. You did not." She stood before him now. "The human is mine," she said. Her voice was quiet but filled the entire room. "You do not touch what is mine." In one smooth motion, she drew a blade from her robes and cut Wormesh's throat. The body fell. The room was silent, except for the sound of gold blood spreading across the floor. The Queen turned. Her eyes found Taiho in the crowd. "Come to the garden tonight," she said. Then she left. Taiho could not move, could not think. She had killed her most trusted advisor. For him, what did that mean? Yuna appeared beside him. Her face was pale. "The nobles are talking," she whispered. "Rumors are spreading across the entire dominion." "What rumors?" Yuna looked at him with something between pity and amazement. "They're saying the Queen has chosen a mate. An alien mate." She paused. "They're saying she's chosen you." That night, Taiho walked to the eastern garden with shaking legs. The Queen was waiting in her usual spot by the glowing pool. But tonight she was not standing. She sat on a stone bench, looking at the water. She looked smaller somehow, less like a ruler and more like a person. "Sit with me," she said. Taiho sat. He left a careful distance between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. The garden hummed with the sounds of night creatures and flowing water. "You killed him for me," Taiho finally said. "Oh, yes. He served you for 400 years. I've been here for 3 months. The Queen turned to face him. Her skin shifted to colors he had never seen before. Soft gold, mixed with something almost pink. When I was young, she said, I learned that ruling requires sacrifice. Personal attachments are weaknesses. Emotions are weapons that enemies use against you. So I removed them. I became cold, perfect, untouchable, and I have been untouchable for 600 years. She looked back at the water. Then you came. You argued with me. You challenged my ideas. You looked at me like I was just a person, not a symbol. No one has done that in centuries, Tai-Ho. No one has dared. I didn't mean to, I know. That's what made it real. She smiled slightly. You do not fear me enough to lie to me. That is rare. That is precious. Tai-Ho's heart was beating so hard he was sure she could hear it. What does this mean? He asked. The rumors. The nobles. What happens now? The queen stood. She moved to face the pool directly, her back to him. Among my people, when a queen chooses a mate, it is forever. We bond for life. It is not just marriage as humans understand it. It is a joining of souls, of purpose, of destiny. It cannot be undone. She turned back to him. I am asking you to bond with me, Park Tai-Ho. I am asking you to be my husband. The words hit him like physical blows. He could not breathe, could not think. I don't. I know this is sudden. I know this is strange. A human and a Volanthi. It has never been done. She stepped closer. But I have watched you. I have listened to you. I have seen your heart, and I want it. I want you. All of you, forever. Tai-Ho stood up. His legs barely held him. I need to think. I need time. There is something else you should know. The queen's voice became heavier. If you refuse, there will be consequences. My people will see it as a rejection of the dominion itself. Some will want blood, war, perhaps. Not because I command it, but because they will feel humiliated on my behalf. So I have no choice. You always have a choice. She stepped even closer, close enough to touch. But choices have consequences. That is the nature of power. I will not force you. I will never force you. But I cannot control how others will react. Tai-Ho felt trapped, cornered. Everything was spinning. I need time, he said again. Please. The queen nodded slowly. You have 3 days. Then I must have your answer. She left him alone in the garden. Tai-Ho did not sleep that night, or the next. He paced his room. He talked to Yuna. He sent encrypted messages to Earth, trying to explain what was happening. Earth's response was chaos. Some leaders called it the greatest opportunity in human history. Others called it a betrayal of human dignity. Debates exploded across the news networks. People marched in streets on both sides of the argument, and in the middle of it all was Tai-Ho, one ordinary man who had never asked for any. Of this, on the second day, Yuna came to his room with news. There's a ship arriving tomorrow, she said. Someone from Earth requested to see you. Someone the Queen personally approved. Who? Yuna smiled slightly. Your mother. Tai-Ho's legs gave out. He sat down hard. His mother. Park Yoonji, a retired schoolteacher from Seoul who had never left Earth in her life. She was coming here. To an alien world? For him, the next day, he waited at the landing platform with his heart in his throat. The small transport ship descended through the purple sky. It landed softly. The doors opened. Park Yoonji stepped out. She was small. 64 years old, gray hair pulled back in a simple bun. She wore a plain dress, completely out of place among the crystal towers and flowing robes around her. She looked at her son. You've lost weight, she said. Are they not feeding you? Tai-Ho laughed. Then he cried. Then he hugged her so hard he nearly knocked her over. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't ask for this. I don't know what to do. She held him like she had when he was a child. When he was scared of the dark. When the other kids made fun of him for reading too much. Tell me everything, she said. They talked for hours. Tai-Ho told her about the arrival. The Queen. The meetings. The death of Warmesh. The proposal. Everything. His mother listened. She asked questions. She nodded. She did not interrupt. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Do you love her?" she finally asked. Taeho opened his mouth, closed it. Did he? He thought about the queen. Her laughter, so rare and precious. Her curiosity. The way she listened, like every word mattered. The loneliness in her eyes that matched the loneliness in his own. "I think I could," he admitted. "I think I'm starting to. But this is so fast. So strange. She's not even human. She's lived for 600 years. I'm just me." His mother took his hands. "You were always just you," she said. "And that was always enough. For me, for anyone who truly saw you, maybe that's what she sees too." The next morning, there was a knock on Taeho's door. A servant bowed low. "Her Majesty requests your mother's presence in the throne room." Taeho felt cold fear grip his stomach. Why, Her Majesty did not say. They followed the servant through crystal halls. Guards opened towering doors. They entered the throne room, the same room where Wormesh had died. The queen sat on her throne. But she did not stay there. As Taeho and his mother entered, she stood. She walked down the steps. She moved toward them with slow, deliberate grace. And then, before the entire assembled court, Queen Uravel, of the Velenthai Dominion, did something no one had ever seen. She knelt. The gasps filled the room. Nobles staggered backward. Even the guards looked shaken. The queen, ruler of 400 star systems, knelt before a small, elderly human woman. "Park Yoonji," the queen said. "Mother of Park Taeho, I come before you not as a queen, but as a woman who loves your son." Taeho's mother stared down at her. Her face showed no fear, only careful attention. "Among my people," the queen continued, "the mother's blessing is sacred. More sacred than law, more binding than treaty. I ask for your blessing. I ask for your permission to bond with your son." The silence was absolute. Every being in the room held their breath. Taeho's mother stepped forward. She placed her small, wrinkled hand on the queen's shoulder. "Look at me," she said. The queen raised her head. "Do you love him?" Yoonji asked. Not as a curiosity, not as a political advantage. "Do you love him? The real him? The man who forgets to eat when he's reading? The man who cries at sad songs? The man who has never quite believed he deserves to be loved?" The queen's skin shifted through a dozen colors, emotions rippling across her like waves. "Yes," she said. "I love him. All of him. Even the parts he hides from himself." Yoonji studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Then you have my blessing. Take care of my boy." Taeho stepped forward. His eyes were wet. His voice shook. "Mom, it's your choice now," his mother said. "But remember what I taught you. Love is not about being worthy. It's about choosing each other anyway." Taeho looked at the queen. She was still kneeling, waiting, vulnerable in a way he had never seen her. He offered his hand. "I have conditions," he said. "I won't be a trophy. I won't be a symbol. If we do this, we do it as equals. Partners, or not at all." The queen took his hand and rose. "I accept your conditions," she said. All of them. The room erupted. Cheering, gasping, shouting. Colors flashed everywhere, but Taeho barely noticed. He was looking at the woman who would be his wife. And for the first time in his life, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The Hall of 10,000 Stars lived up to its name. The ceiling rose so high that Taeho could not see where it ended. Floating lights drifted through the air like living stars. The walls were made of some dark material that reflected the lights, making it seem like they were standing in the middle of space itself. Representatives from over 50 species filled the hall. Taeho had never seen so many different forms of intelligent life in one place. Some walked on two legs like humans. Some floated in the air. Some crawled on many limbs. Some were so strange that Taeho's brain could not quite understand what he was seeing, and they were all here to witness his wedding. The grand conclave happened once every decade. Leaders from across the galaxy gathered to discuss treaties, trade, and the balance of power. This time, they would also witness something that had never happened before in the history of the Valanthi Dominion. An alien marriage to the Queen. Taiho stood near the entrance, trying to breathe. He wore clothes that the palace tailors had spent weeks creating. Half human, half Valanthi. A dark suit that shifted color slightly when he moved. A cloak of silver fabric that flowed like water. On his chest, the symbol of the Dominion. A spiral of stars. "You look like you're going to faint," Yuna said beside him. She was in full military dress, serving as his official guard. "I might," Taiho admitted. "Please don't. I'd have to catch you. And that would ruin the whole ceremony." Despite everything, Taiho laughed. "Thanks for being here. Wouldn't miss it." Her face softened. "You know, when I first met you on that ship, I thought you were the weakest person I'd ever seen. That's very kind." "I was wrong," she continued. "You're one of the strongest. Just in a different way." Before Taiho could respond, a familiar voice called his name. Taiho. He turned. A young man was pushing through the crowd of officials and guards. He was human, dressed in journalist's clothes, with a camera hanging around his neck. Im Doyen, Taiho's childhood friend. They had grown up on the same street in Seoul. They had read comics together, played games together, dreamed about the stars together. "Doyen, how did you get here?" "Press delegation," Doyen grinned. "I may have called in every favor I've ever earned and invented a few new ones." He grabbed Taiho in a tight hug. "I wasn't going to miss my best friend's wedding to an alien queen. That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd say." Taiho hugged him back. "I'm glad you're here. I'm terrified." "You should be. This is insane." Doyen stepped back and looked at him seriously. "But you know what else? It's also amazing. You're making history. Little Park Taiho, the kid who got nauseous on school buses, getting married to the most powerful being in the galaxy. Thanks for reminding me. Someone has to keep you humble." Deep bells began to ring. The sound filled the entire hall, silencing all conversation. It was time. Taiho walked toward the center of the hall. Every eye turned to watch him. Millions of different eyes in millions of different forms. He felt like an insect under a microscope, but he kept walking. He reached a raised platform in the center of the hall. Ancient symbols were carved into the floor around it. He stood in the exact center and waited. The bells stopped. The great doors at the far end of the hall opened. Queen Uravel entered. She wore armor. That surprised him. Dark purple metal that covered her body like a second skin. A crown of living light floated above her head. Her skin was darker than he had ever seen it, almost black. Shifting with colors that had no names, she was not dressed as a bride. She was dressed as a conqueror, and she was beautiful. She walked through the hall slowly. Representatives bowed their heads as she passed. When she reached the platform, she climbed the steps and stood facing Taiho. "I kept you waiting," she said quietly. "Just for him, I didn't mind." She smiled, then she turned to face the assembled crowd. Her voice rang out, amplified by technology Taiho could not see. "Before all who witness, before the stars themselves, I present my chosen." She took Taiho's hand and raised it high. "Park Taiho of Earth, my equal, my bondmate, my husband." The silence was absolute. Taiho could feel it. The weight of 1,000 different species staring at them. Some with curiosity, some with approval, some with hatred. Then a voice cut through the silence. "I invoke the right of challenge." Every head turned. A figure was stepping forward from the crowd. He was tall, even for an alien. His skin was red and scaled. His eyes were yellow with slitted pupils. He moved like a predator, the Krethian ambassador. Taiho remembered reading about the Krethian. They were warriors, conquerors. They had been rivals of the Valanthi for millennia. The ambassador stopped at the edge of the platform. "According to the ancient laws," he said, "any who claim the queen must prove their worth. The trial of dominion, combat, intellect, will." his yellow eyes fixed on Taiho, lest the little human wishes to withdraw his claim. The hall exploded with noise, every species talking at once. Translators worked overtime trying to keep up. Uravel's skin flashed red with anger. The trial has not been invoked in 10,000 years. The law remains, the ambassador said calmly. Your human can accept the trial, or he can withdraw. If he withdraws, your marriage is void. If he fails the trial, the ambassador smiled, showing many sharp teeth, he dies. Taiho felt cold. His legs wanted to collapse. His heart wanted to stop, die. He could die tonight. Right here, he looked at Uravel. Her face was tight with fury. But beneath that, he saw something else. Fear. For him, he thought about running. About giving up. About going home and forgetting all of this. But then he thought about his mother's words. About choosing each other anyway. He stepped forward. I accept. Hall went completely silent. Taiho no Uravel started. Accept the trial of dominion, Taiho repeated louder. His voice shook, but he kept speaking. Combat. Intellect. Will. Whatever you want. I'll face it. The Krethian ambassador studied him. The predator's smile faded slightly. Interesting, he said. Either very brave or very stupid. I've been told it's both, Taiho replied. A sound rippled through the hall. It took Taiho a moment to realize it was laughter. Different species, different languages, different forms of expression, but they were all laughing. The ambassador's smile returned, but it was different now. Less cruel, more respectful. The trial begins at dawn, he announced. In the chamber of testing, may your worth match your words, little human. He turned and walked back into the crowd. Uravel grabbed Taiho's arm. Her grip was strong enough to bruise. What have you done? She whispered. No human has ever faced the trial. The combat alone, I know. Taiho looked into her eyes. But if I ran, they would never respect me. They would never accept me. Our marriage would be a joke. A symbol of human weakness. He shook his head. I can't start our life together that way. You could die. I could. He put his hand over hers. But I'd rather die trying than live knowing I surrendered. Her skin shifted through a storm of colors. Fear, anger, pride, love. You foolish. Brave, impossible human, she said. That's why you chose me. She pulled him close. Right there, in front of everyone. In front of the entire galaxy. Dawn, she whispered. You have until dawn to prepare. I will tell you everything I know about the trial. Every secret. Every weakness that's cheating. I am a queen. I make the rules. She pulled back and looked at him fiercely. Survive this. That's an order. Taiho nodded. Dawn was only hours away. He had no combat training. No special powers. No idea what he was really facing. But he had something else. Something that had gotten him this far. He had the ability to notice what others missed, and he would need every bit of it. To survive the night, the chamber of testing was not a room. It was a dimension. Taiho stepped through the portal and found himself standing on a floating platform in the middle of nothing. No walls, no ceiling. No floor except the stone beneath his feet. Just endless dark space in every direction, filled with distant stars. A voice echoed from everywhere at once. The trial of dominion. 3 tests. Combat intellect. Will fail any test, and you die. Pass all 3, and you are worthy. Taiho swallowed hard. I'm ready. The platform beneath him began to expand. Stone rose from nowhere, forming a circular arena. On the far side, another platform appeared, and on it stood a warrior. The Krethian was massive. 8 feet tall, covered in red scales, with arms like tree trunks and claws that could tear through metal. He wore no armor. He needed none. Trial of combat, the voice announced. Survive for 100 heartbeats. If you fall, if you yield, if your heart stops, you fail. 100 heartbeats. Taiho's heart was racing so fast that might only be about a minute. The Krethian warrior grinned. I will try to make this quick, little one, he charged. Taiho did not try to fight. He ran. The Cretheon was faster than he looked, but Taiho was smaller, more agile. He dodged left as a massive fist slammed down where he had been standing. He rolled right as claws cut through the air. Running will not save you, the warrior growled. No. Taiho gasped. I'm buying time. The warrior swung again. Taiho ducked, feeling the wind of the blow pass over his head. He scrambled backward across the arena. He had spent the night talking with Uravel, learning everything about the Cretheon, their biology, their culture, their honor codes, and he had noticed something. Among your people, Taiho said, still dodging and running, there is a ritual, the surrender of ground. When a weaker opponent tactically retreats to show intelligence rather than cowardice. The warrior paused. What do you know of our rituals? I know that if I formally invoke the surrender of ground, you cannot strike me while I am in motion away from you. Your honor forbids it. The warrior's eyes widened. His scales flushed a darker red. You studied us. I study everyone. Taiho kept moving, but slower now. More deliberately, I am not trying to defeat you. I know I cannot. I am only trying to survive. That is my goal. And I will use every trick, every law, every tradition available to me. The warrior stared at him for a long moment, then he laughed. A deep, rumbling sound. You have teeth after all, little human. The voice spoke again. 100 heartbeats complete. Trial of combat. Passed. Taiho collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. His whole body was shaking, but he was alive. The arena dissolved. The platform reformed. Now there was a pedestal in front of him, and floating above it, a puzzle. It was made of light. Geometric shapes moving within other shapes. Numbers and symbols flowing around them like rivers. Mathematical equations that hurt to look at. Trial of intellect, the voice said. The paradox of origin. Volanthi scholars have studied this for 50,000 years. Solve it in 100 heartbeats, or fail. Taiho stared at the puzzle. His mind raced. 50,000 years. Volanthi scholars. These were the smartest beings in the galaxy, and they had failed. He could not outthink them. Not in 100 heartbeats. Not in 100 years. But Uravel had told him something. Something important. The trial tests worth, not ability. It finds what you are, not what you can do. Taiho looked at the puzzle again. Really looked at it. The shapes were beautiful. The mathematics were elegant. But there was something else. Something the Volanthi might have missed because they were looking for logic. Emotion. The shapes were not random. They formed patterns. Patterns that repeated. Patterns that built on each other, like verses in a poem. Taiho closed his eyes. He stopped trying to solve the puzzle. He started trying to feel it. The first Queen Uravel had told him about her. The founder of the Dominion. A brilliant warrior and ruler, but also a woman who had loved. And lost her bondmate had died in the Great Wars. She had created this puzzle afterward, and it had remained unsolved ever since, because it was not meant to be solved. It was meant to be understood. Taiho opened his eyes. It's not a math problem, he said aloud. It's a love poem. For her lost husband. The puzzle froze. The paradox is the paradox of grief. How can someone be gone and still present? How can love continue when the beloved is dead? The answer is, Taiho touched the floating light. The answer is that love transcends death. It continues beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond time. The puzzle dissolved into soft light that flowed around him like a gentle wind. Trial of intellect. Passed. Taiho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. 2 down. 1 to go. The platform changed again. This time, it became nothing. Just Taiho floating in darkness. Trial of will, the voice said. Face your deepest fear. The darkness changed. Suddenly, Taiho could see everything. Not the testing chamber, but everything. The entire galaxy. Billions of stars. Trillions of planets. Countless civilizations living and dying across the endless expanse of space. And among all of it, a single voice. His own? You are nothing. The words hit him like physical blows. Look at the universe. Look at its size, its age, its complexity. You are one human. One tiny creature on one small planet in one ordinary corner of one average galaxy. Images flashed before him. The Earth, so small, so fragile. His mother's house, his childhood bedroom. Everything he had ever known, ever loved, ever been. In a million years, no one will remember your name. In a billion years, your species will be gone. In a trillion years, even the stars will die. Everything ends. Everything is forgotten. You are insignificant. Taiho felt himself falling. Not physically, but internally. The darkness was pulling at him, telling him what he had always secretly believed, that he was not special, not important, not worthy. Why had Yuravel chosen him? He was nobody. A translator, a scholar. He got motion sickness. He could not fight. He could not lead. He was just small. You are nothing, the voice repeated. Surrender to the truth. Taiho floated in the darkness. The weight of the universe pressed down on him, and then, slowly, he began to laugh. It was a quiet sound, almost broken, but it was real.
Right,
he said to the darkness. Everything ends. Every star dies. Every memory fades. In the grand scheme of things, I am insignificant. He straightened in the void. But you know what? That's not a tragedy. That's what makes this moment matter. He thought of his mother. Her small hands, her warm voice, the way she hummed songs while cooking dinner. I'm not here because I'll last forever. I'm here because today, right now, I matter to someone. And she matters to me. He thought of Yuravel, her laughter, her loneliness, the way she looked at him like he was the most interesting thing in the galaxy. Love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. I choose her. She chooses me. And that choice, right now, in this moment, is more real than all the stars in the universe. The darkness trembled. Significance isn't about size, Taiho continued. It's about meaning. And I get to decide what has meaning for me. Not the universe. Not fate. Not fear, me. He spread his arms wide. So yes, I am small. I am temporary. I am one human among trillions of beings. And I accept all of it. Because accepting it is what lets me love. What lets me choose? What lets me be truly alive. The darkness shattered. Light exploded everywhere. Taiho felt himself falling, rising, existing all at once. The voice spoke one final time. Trial of will. Past. The human is worthy. He opened his eyes. He was back in the Hall of 10,000 Stars. The entire conclave was watching him. Representatives from 50 species, beings of every shape and size and color, they were silent. But their silence felt different now. It felt like respect. The Krethian ambassador stepped forward. His face was unreadable. I came here expecting to watch a human fail, he said. Instead, I watched a human teach the galaxy what worth really means. He bowed his head. I withdraw my challenge. The marriage stands. Cheering erupted. A sound made of 1,000 different voices, 1,000 different languages, 1,000 different ways of expressing joy. But Taiho barely heard it, because Yuravel was running toward him. The queen of the Valanthi Dominion, ruler of 400 star systems, was pushing through the crowd like a common person. She reached him. She grabbed him. She held him. You impossible, beautiful, stupid human, she whispered. You did it. I did it, he agreed. The ceremony finished that night. The binding words were spoken. The ancient rituals completed. And when it was all done, Taiho and Yuravel stood on her palace balcony. Looking at the stars, they'll write songs about today, she said. I'll probably get all the details wrong, he replied. She laughed. That rare, precious sound. Then we'll just have to make more stories worth telling. She took his hand. Her skin shifted to a color he had never seen before. soft, warm, complete, somewhere in the vastness of space. Humanity had found its place, not through conquest or fear, not through strength or technology, through one ordinary man who had taught an immortal queen what it meant to be truly alive, and that, Taiho decided, was enough. More than enough. It was everything.